everyone, it's Lexi. So in today's video I'll be sharing with you all the books that I ended up reading in the month of February. So February was very much a stressful, very busy month for me. It was just crazy with school. I've started studying for my qualifier exam that I have to take in May, so I've been doing that, and it's just like I've been so busy with research, school, all that stuff. I've just been very stressed. And if you guys watch Brooklyn Nine-Nine, I found this like meme and I'll post it here, but it's basically like that is like my stress level if you're familiar with Brooklyn Nine-Nine, or the other one from like the Princess Diaries where Princess Mia driving the stag. Like, I think that's so funny, the stag. But like that basically describes my stress level this month, and basically because of that I haven't been able to read as much as I typically do. And like I feel like part of it too is like the books that I read this month were very kind of just mediocre. Like they weren't that amazing, and I feel like that kind of deterred me from reading, and I would go like a couple days without even reading or picking up a book, and so I think that kind of factored into that. So nevertheless, without further ado, let's get started. So starting out the month, this is probably the highest rated book that I read this month, and it was probably the one that I enjoyed the most, and it was Bitter Falls by Rachel Caine, and this is the fourth book in the Stillhouse Lake series. And because this is the fourth book, I can't really talk too much about it, but it deals with this family where the father was a very notorious serial killer, and they are dealing with the after effects of that in terms of like the public threats and scrutiny and all that stuff. The first two books very much deal with kind of the fallout of the kind of the scrutiny and the threats, and then after the third book it kind of deviates. So I was very curious to see the direction that this book would be going in, because it is like basically the foundational storyline is kind of, you know, it's kind of deviated from that. So I was very curious to see the direction of this one was going, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a lot of fun. This one deals with religious cults, which from a psychological standpoint they're very, very fascinating, like interesting, just kind of the whole like the manipulation, like the psychological manipulation behind them, like that's so interesting. But they totally freak me out. Like I remember there's a Criminal Minds episode that dealt with like a religious cult, and that's what I always think of. But yeah, it's like totally creepy, and it was just, I loved the mystery aspect in here. It was really fast paced, and overall like I really enjoyed it. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. The only thing that kind of really irritated me was the character of Lanny, and she's the one from the beginning that I've just never really liked. I don't like how she presents herself. I don't like her choices. Like I know she's a teenager, but like Connor, he irritated me in the second one, but he's kind of redeemed himself. But Lanny is just one where she's just continuously, and I'm just like, she just needs a good Gibbs slap, and she just needs to be like, you know, get over herself essentially. But yeah, nevertheless, I still really enjoyed this book. This was the book that I enjoyed the most this month. So yeah, I'm very interested to see what the next one has in store. I think there's one coming out next year, so that's something to look forward to as well. So after me and my parents finished watching The Crown in January, I want to say, I ended up picking up The Crown Volume 2, which basically goes into depth about more of the history side of seasons 2 and 3. So I really enjoyed the one, like Volume 1, which dealt with season 1, and so I had kind of like at least a standard for how I like my expectations going into it. This one I didn't enjoy as much as the previous one, and I felt like this one was very much rushed, and it like just kind of grazed the surface. Like the first one went into a lot of depth and like details about some of the stuff that like is alluded to in each episode or like stuff like that, but it kind of goes into more in depth. Yeah, and so I have my bullet journal here. I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. It was just like okay, but you can see like this is 2 seasons and it's very short, and like the font I could probably see without my glasses on, and I have horrible eyesight. The font is huge. It was just very much rushed. Like some of like the history stuff in here was like I enjoyed, but it was just like I felt like they were like, oh, like we need to get this one out that also covers season 3, and they just kind of rushed it, and like you can tell the font was huge. Like if the font was like normal size, the book would probably be like this big. So it wasn't as good as the first volume, so I was a little bit disappointed, but I did find some of the history aspects in here to be like, I enjoyed them and kind of learning about that, especially because the third season was very much still fresh in my mind, so it was just kind of okay. And lastly, this was the series that I planned on marathoning in February, and I got through the first 2 out of the 3, so I tried my best, but like I said, it was just a hectic month. So I ended up reading the first 2 books in the Sign of Seven trilogy by Nora Roberts, the first one being Blood Brothers and the second one being The Hollow. So yeah, I like, because I've read the Cousins O'Dyer trilogy in 4 years ago, and I really enjoyed that. I obviously really love her Year One trilogy, so I had like, I had like a general idea, like okay, I know her writing, so I had like an expectation set as well. And yeah, for whatever reason, I just couldn't get into this as much as the other ones, and it's very much formulaic. It follows a similar pattern to, it's very similar in setup in the Cousins O'Dyer trilogy, which I think maybe that's why I just couldn't find it enjoyable, because I could kind of guess where the plot was going. But basically the premise of this is that it follows these boys when they're 10 years old. They both have the same birthday, and so they kind of sneak out into the woods and they do a blood pact on what was known as the Pagan Stone. And when they do this blood pact, this kind of evil demon that got encased in the stone in the 1600s ends up getting released. So every 7 years for 1 week, this demon essentially wreaks havoc on the town and the people, and it kind of, they have to deal with that. So this is basically maybe 7 months before the start of the new kind of week of chaos, essentially, and it's kind of leading up to this, which is what they're thinking is like the final final battle, basically, to end it all. Like the plot is very interesting, and I just don't enjoy it as much. Like I enjoy it enough to keep reading, and I'm curious to see how it ends, but it's not like something like I was like invested in and like hardcore, like oh my god, I love this. So I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars, both of these. I thought like they're just fun, but it's not like I get a lot out of it reading it, which is a little bit unfortunate, but I'm curious to see how it ends. And like for the first 2, I don't really like the character of Quinn, and this one focuses on Quinn and Cal, which they're okay. I enjoyed this one a little bit more in terms of the romance in here. I liked the characters. I think they're a little bit more likable. And in terms of like plot points, not a lot happens in these 2. Like I feel like what happens could have been condensed into one. There's just a lot of most of this is the romance basically between the characters, but yeah, it's okay. Like it's not my favorite. I'm gonna push through and read the last one because I am curious to see how it ends. I do like the magic aspect in here, not so much the romance this time around. And it basically, I was like thinking about this in terms of like, because the books are about the same length, and it's very, like I said, it's very formulaic, and like what happens in this one is very similar to what happens around the same page count on this one. So it's a little repetitive. It's not like my favorite Nora Roberts trilogy, but it's just a fun, different read, so we'll see how it goes. So that's it, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. I apologize for the mediocre book reviews this month. I have high expectations for March because there's a lot of books that I am really excited about, so keep your eyes peeled for that. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know in the comments below what some of the books you read this month were and all that fun stuff. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, and I will see you guys next time. Bye, guys.